The North Carolina Superintendent of Schools is asking lawmakers to delay implementing the Parents' Bill of Rights. Catherine Truitt told the State Board of Education that districts have too many questions about the law right now. Our education reporter Mary Calkins is live this morning. And Mary, this is something parents will want to pay attention to.
That's exactly right, Alex, because here we're talking about what children are taught and when parents should be notified in certain circumstances. Now, to refresh your memory, you'll remember lawmakers passed a much stricter version of the Parents' Bill of Rights back on August 16th. Schools aren't allowed to teach anything about sexual orientation or gender identity to students in kindergarten through 4th grade. Schools must notify parents if a child asks to be called by a different name or pronoun. And parents will now have the right to inspect and review all materials, from library books to textbooks. And there are restrictions on health-related surveys. Now, last month, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Board of Education approved the new policies, but they are the exception. Most districts are waiting on guidance from the North Carolina School Boards Association. State Superintendent Catherine Truitt is asking lawmakers to delay implementing these new rules until January 1st.
They are listening to us and recognize that there's not enough time for districts to get these things in place.
Now, a spokesperson for Senate Leader Phil Berger told Raleigh station WRAL lawmakers are aware of these concerns and working to address them. Reporting live in Charlotte, Mary Calkins, WBTV, on your side.